WrestleMania 22 had one of the worst posters of any WrestleMania ever. Look at that. What the f***'s that? After all, John Cena wasn't wrestling Booker T on the show, and how is a running bulldog big time? What does big time mean? Why is his poster so shit? Especially when WrestleMania 22 was pretty darn good. Edge Foley was spectacular carnage, Michaels McMahon was spectacular carnage, the Money in the Bank ladder match was spectacular. I'm beginning to see a theme here, and the main event was John Cena's first as a polarizing figure. Ironically, for a show called Big Time, 22 was the last Mania to be held in an arena, with all subsequent Manias taking place in stadiums. Hey, a tiny little bonus fact to kick us off. You're welcome. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about WrestleMania 22. Number 10. Bret Hart and Steve Austin snubbed Hulk Hogan at the Hall of Fame. One of the true highlights of WrestleMania weekend was seeing Bret Hart receive his richly deserved Hall of Fame recognition. Despite Hart often being more stone-faced and Lance Storm posing for a sculpture, the speech was a joy. But it wasn't the only rewarding part of Hart's weekend. 13 years earlier, in 1993, when Hogan returned to the company in the midst of Hart's first World Championship reign, he apparently refused to shake Hart's hand or even say a word to him when the two crossed paths for the first time in a year. At the Hall of Fame, Hart recalls that he was talking with Austin, his inductor, when Hogan approached the men looking for a handshake. Both Hart and Stone Cold completely ignored him. The Hitman never forgets. Number 9. It took 7 years, but Big Show finally won a WrestleMania match. 8 years before Undertaker was conquered by Brock Lesnar, an equally notable streak came to an end. Big Show actually won a WrestleMania match. After losing sumo matches, hardcore matches, jobbing out in main events in under 5 minutes, and being forced to spend WrestleMania picking your stupid kids up at the bad Times Square restaurant, Show finally got the W. Big Show and Kane reigned as Raw's tag team champions for 5 months at the time of WrestleMania 22, and were given a win over the youthful duo of Carlito and Chris Masters. It was a serviceable opening match, concluding with Kane choke-slamming the apple-spitting Carlito for the fall, so of course, Big Show didn't actually score the pin. It would take him another 4 goddamn years to do that. Number 8. The Boogeyman tore his biceps shortly before Mania. Piss off, the Boogeyman. You're awful. The worm-bothering sworn enemy of clocks went into Mania 22 wrestling a handicap match against Booker T and his wife Charmel. It wasn't supposed to go long, but it wasn't supposed to go less than 4 fucking minutes. A full week before WrestleMania, Boogeyman was working a house show match with Booker T in Oklahoma City. During the course of the 6-minute bout, Boogeyman tore his bicep, putting the WrestleMania match in jeopardy. It was later determined that he could work through the tear, but would have to keep the match super short. Days after the pay-per-view, the Boogeyman had surgery, hopefully in full makeup, and would miss several months of action. Number 7. It was Edge's suggestion to go through the flaming table. Edge's Money in the Bank cash-in on John Cena in January 2006 crystallized him as a main eventer. Unfortunately, his reign as champion only lasted 3 weeks, so the rated R superstar, that was always rubbish, that would need another way onto the WrestleMania 22 card. An insta-feud with Mick Foley opened the doors for a chance to do something memorably crazy. The flaming table spot that ended the bloodbath was Edge's idea. He'd made the suggestion knowing that Foley would be on board, giving his own history of self-maiming in the name of spectacle and art. Edge would later say that he felt like he deserved to main event that Mania, and if it wasn't going to happen, he would do something mental so that people remembered him. And we do. Number 6. Vince McMahon screamed at Mickie James for her gesture. Mickie James was something different in a sea of familiar gimmicks. She was mad and fun and played her role with the kind of infectious enthusiasm that made her the most lovable stalker since Glenn Close. WrestleMania 22 was unquestionably her finest hour, even if a certain chain-wearing chairman didn't appreciate one aspect of her sexually charged zaniness. You remember the spot. Trish Stratus snares Mickie in a stratisfaction attempt, only for Mickie to grasp her personal space. She forms a V and then licks her fingers. Oddly, for a man who that very year would sanction having poo dropped on him, Vince thought the act was crass, bellowed at James as soon as she came backstage, and complained it would have to be edited out of all future releases, which it was. Number 5. A match was proposed between Eddie Guerrero and Shawn Michaels. Eddie Guerrero is one of the best all-round performers in WWE history, and his November 2005 passing left a massive void in the WWE roster. Based on plans made just before his demise, Guerrero's death also left a void in the card for WrestleMania 22. The creative team had spoken with McMahon a day or two before Guerrero died, and former writer Corbara recalls Bruce Pritchard made a curious match proposal: Guerrero versus Michaels. That sounds so good. It could have been a story about personal demons, faith, being the best worker in the world. There was so much to go on. McMahon was apparently sold on the idea, knowing that both had the charisma and salesmanship to build a hell of a story and a hell of a match. Sadly, It just wasn't meant to be. Number 4, Undertaker considered letting Kurt Angle end the streak. At the dawn of 2006, Undertaker was 13-0 and Kurt Angle was reigning World Heavyweight Champion. Marky Mark and the Funeral Bunch was looking to finally have that 5-star match at Mania that had eluded him to this point. According to Sexy Kurt, Mr. Frightening Lightning was very interested in working with him at Mania 22, potentially putting him over to end the streak, as long as he got a Mania Classic. McMahon, however, killed off the idea, and Angle himself has actually said since then he thought the streak should have been eternal. Instead, Angle and Undertaker had their match at No Way Out a month before, which was arguably the company's best match of the entire calendar year. Number 3, Batista vs. Orton was the original choice for the World Heavyweight title match. Hey, everyone loves WrestleMania where Batista vs. Orton is the original choice, right? The death of Eddie Guerrero understandably threw much of SmackDown's creative into disarray. Things were made even more complicated when World Heavyweight Champion Batista tore his right triceps in the first week of January, necessitating the vacancy of his belt. Kurt Angle was pulled over from Raw to fill the vacancy and stabilize the belt, but before Batista's injury, plans were for him to defend the belt against ex-Evolution teammate Randall Orton, who would have been coming out of his feud with Undertaker around that time. The two shared a backstage segment the night of WrestleMania 22, implicitly hinting at a battle down the line when big boy Dave recovered. However, Orton was moved to the Raw brand later in the spring, scrapping those tentative ideas, and then the two fought at WrestleMania 30, Dave won the belt, and everything was fine. Number 2, agents and writers had to plead with Vince to put the belt on Rey Mysterio. It was a feel-good moment when Rey Mysterio lasted 62 minutes en route to winning the 2006 Royal Rumble. Not only was a deserving performer getting to enjoy greater spoils, but there was plenty of sentiment in the air that Mysterio should go on to WrestleMania and capture one of the world titles as tribute to Guerrero, one of his best friends. According to Dave Meltzer, the consensus throughout the WWE office was that Mysterio should win the big one at Mania. Everyone from Pat Patterson on down was on Mysterio's side, except Vince McMahon. The boss argued that Mysterio was too small to be taken seriously as champion, while virtually everyone that had his ear fought hard for Mysterio to win. In the end, McMahon relented and allowed Mysterio the championship moment. Of course, his championship reign was cockdusters, being jobbed out to many much bigger men, otherwise known as Vinny's Revenge. And number 1, the World Championship match's allotted time was cut in half. It wasn't a good sign that the Royal Rumble match winner didn't get to go on last, a trend that would have flicked WrestleMania 22 and 5 of the 6 after it. Mysterio's quest to honor his departed friend went on third from the end, and was originally slotted for 19 minutes. That would have been more than enough time for Mysterio, Randy Orton, and champion Kurt Angle to craft an emotional story. Right before heading out to the ring, the three learned that their match was cut down to 9 minutes due to some previous matches going too long, the McMahon's-Michaels match being the likely culprit, once again, Vinny's Revenge. The three still delivered a well-worked match, but it felt spottier than it should have been, lacking a true audience connection. And that's our list. Did we miss any out? Tell us about it in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter here, and you can follow Justin Henry, the guy who writes these articles, here. I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.